Hey, everybody, welcome to Friday News Lunch from the Bucks County Beacon. That's right. I'm Kevin Mahoney, and each week we'll serve up the week's top stories affecting our communities and the nation. This week, it's time for a roll-in, another round of the Power Lunch. That's right. Once again, Emily Smith, the owner and publisher of the Beacon, is here with me today. Not only will we be serving up this week's top stories affecting our community and the nation, but we'll also take a peek behind the scenes. What's happened at the Beacon? We got some great news today, too, as well. This is like awesome news Friday. I mean, not like the world, but the Beacon. I'm telling you, this is where it's at. We hope you'll join us live every Friday at noon right here on YouTube. You can check us out on the Beacon's website at buckscountybeacon.com. You can also join our live chat during the show. Bring some friends along, everybody. Take a little minute, got the music in the background, shoot some kind of, messages off to friends, have them come and join. Let us know what's happening in the community. Look, we're going to need independent, community-supported progressive media in the weeks, months, and years ahead. There couldn't be a better time to take a moment, head on over to buckscountybeacon.com, click that Support the Beacon button, become a supporter. You can become a monthly entry-level supporter for as little as $1 a month, a regular supporter for just $5 a month, $5 a month, or a yearly supporter for as little as $50 a year. You can also drop a one-time donation to keep the Beacon's critical lens focused and sustainable. Just go to the buckscountybeacon.com, click the Support the Beacon button, become a supporter today. Let's see what we got on the menu for this week. What a week again, right? Last Saturday, this is like the top lot. This was awesome. Last Saturday, estimates of up to 3 million people took part in more than 1,300 hands-off protests nationwide last weekend. Unlike the mass mobilizations in D.C. and some major cities during the first Trump administration, the hands-off protests were pervasive and large in all 50 states and took place in small towns to big cities. It's amazing. This time around, the protest seems more rooted in local organizing and communities. That bodes well for the organizing going forward. Love this. 10 national unions representing more than 3 million workers have issued a joint statement demanding the release of immigrant workers who were abducted by ICE. The unions are calling on employers, university administrators, and local governments to refuse to cooperate with ICE and for elected officials to, quote, bind their spines. The list of unions includes the United Auto Workers, SEIU, American Association of University Professors, National Nurses United, the American Postal Workers Union, the Association of Flight Attendants, among so many more, and a long list of local union chapters signed on to the letter as well. Pretty awesome. Last night, U.S. Supreme Court kind of sort of orders the Trump administration to ensure the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland man who was mistakenly deported into a mega prison in El Salvador last month. According to the brief decision, the administration is technically required to facilitate the release of Garcia. What that means may be still fought over in court. Like, do thoughts and prayers count? Well, we're not sure. And are you enjoying real-time drama? The tariff war? It's fantastic. Broadcasting live right from your outdoors. Yes, everything from potential market manipulation, insider trading, to rapid escalation of new tariffs. Just this morning, China raised tariffs on U.S. goods to 125%, following Trump raising tariffs on China to 145% in a truth social tantrum. And of course, we all get to pay for it. How's that? Meanwhile, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can't quite bring himself to seriously tackle the measles outbreak, despite being in charge of the measles outbreak. Right? Yes. While he begrudgingly issued a statement saying that the measles vaccine was, quote, the most effective way to prevent and spread the virus, he tried to reclaim his anti-vax crown by falsely claiming in an interview on CBS that the measles vaccine, quote, wanes very quickly, unquote, flying in the face of the proven science that shows the vaccine provides lifelong protection. Unreal. And Colonel Susan Myers, the latest woman in the military to get booted. Yep, she was the commander of the U.S. military base in Greenland. Well, she was fired after she seemed to contradict J.D. Vance, who furthers Trump's annexation fantasies and slammed Denmark for ignoring Greenland's safety when he was visiting there. What was the offending email that got her fired? Must have been pretty bad, right? Oh, well, she wrote, quote, I do not presume to understand current politics, but what I do know is the concerns of the U.S. administration discussed by Vice President Vance on Friday are not reflective of the The Pacific, I don't know, space base. That's right. It's the space base. That's where Space Force is, by the way. Just so you know. Yep, and that got her booted. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. And the Beacon, holy moly, this is a great week for the Beacon, not only just in terms of reporting, but some other news we're going to do right at the top here. Bucks County Beacon is among nearly 50 independent newsrooms across the nation. And I'm not talking slouches here. This is like great company to be in. 50 independent newsrooms across the nation named to participate in a pilot program sponsored by the Associated Press Fund for Journalism. That's the APFJ. And the whole purpose of that is to, quote, support public service journalism and make it accessible to state and local news organizations in the U.S. Rachel White, the CEO of the AP's Fund for Journalism, said in a press release, quote, fact-based journalism, independent journalism is the backbone of engaged communities and informed civic discourse. Local newsrooms are on the front lines of telling the stories that matter most to their audiences, but they often lack the resources to do so effectively. And the fund is designed to support exactly that. Congratulations, the Beacon. This is freaking huge. Yeah. And Beacon editor Cyril Michaleko reports on Representative Brian Fitzpatrick's vote in favor of the Trumpian so-called SAVE Act. According to Selena Stewart of the League of Women's Voters, the SAVE Act, is a, quote, direct attack on the fundamental right to vote in a dangerous step backward for our democracy. Not only will it affect all sorts of kind of people who have been historically like disenfranchised with vote, but it also has the potential of disenfranchising 69 million married women whose married name does not match their birth certificate. Gotta love that. God, Paul Weyrich, founder of the Heritage Foundation, must be loving this. A couple of great pieces covering last weekend's hands-off protests in the Beacon. Amy Connect has an awesome photo essay covering the spirited action in Quakertown. And Edie Weinstein was on the ground covering the action in Doylestown that saw over 1,500 people show up in the center of town to demand the Trump regime keep their hands off public services. Diana Lagerman answers the question, why protest, in her latest for the Beacon. Lagerman writes, quote, protests are a powerful and necessary step in the pursuit of justice. They give voice to the marginalized and have the ability to create the public pressure needed to force political action. 100%. And a special to the Beacon, Carly Citrin from Chalkbeat reports that Pennsylvania, quote, will not order schools to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives as President Trump's administration has demanded. And that's according to Angela Fitterer, the PA's Executive Deputy Secretary of Education. Pennsylvania officials are stating that the state, quote, has and will continue to comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which bars discrimination based upon race, national origin, or shared ancestry. In a column for the Beacon, Maya Van Rossum from the Delaware River Keeper Network warns that the Trump administration and aligned PA legislators may have in their sights undoing the hard-fought ban on fracking in the Delaware River watershed. Got to check that one out. But look, after all this, if you need a little cozy pick-me-up, right, from the world on fire, Melissa Rizzo reports in the newly edited, updated edition of Birds of Bucks County by the Bucks County Audubon Society. The illustrated book lists all the bird species you'll see in Bucks County around the year. And the executive director of the Bucks County Audubon Society, Michael Selleck, and others who worked on the book were recently honored at the Bucks County Commissioners meeting. So you know what? You want to get out there because you want to get outside. You don't want to spend too much time online. You don't want to spend too much time kind of like doom scrolling. Get out there, check out the birds, pick up that book. Really, really cool story from Melissa Rizzo there. Emily, welcome to another week in the show.
Hello.
Well, listen, there's enough kind of stuff that, could send us all to the doom scroll mentality, but I don't want to start there. I want to start with what's going on with the Bucks County Beacon getting this real honor to be part of these 50 independent newsrooms that the Associated Press Fund for Journalism is going to be taking on and being part of this pilot program. First of all, congratulations. And can you tell us a little bit about what the process was and kind of what this means for the Beacon?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So in the fall, we were able to participate in an election program that was funded by the Knight Foundation and Google News Initiative and a bunch of them, which allowed us to get AP content for the 2024 election. And we got that because I went to the Lion Publishers Conference and found out about all of the election resources. There was from Lion, I found out about a million. The Knight Foundation had stuff. Muck Rock had stuff. There was so many resources for us to do good election reporting. We couldn't even use it all, like, because there was just so much. But the AP was the thing that helped us the most. So let me just explain how that worked and how I think this is going to work.
Awesome.
So we got a login to the AP newsroom, and it's like a back end, and we can see all of the stories. And in the fall, we got just like the election section, and then we also got all of those live election results that you remember from my fantastic voter guide.
Freaking amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So awesome, that we are
That was
getting
incredible.
these.
I mean, like literally to be able to go to the Beacon on election night and kind of follow the returns coming in on
The
that was
AP
just
calls.
incredible. It really was incredible. It really was awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, so that was all AP stuff. So we got to use their, photography, their articles. They even had like sections, which I think is like one of the best things, because it's kind of what we do with our storytelling, is they have a localize it section. So they have like a major story, and then they tell you all sorts of suggestions about how to make it local for your audience. So then it takes like 75% out of the work out of it, and then you're left with, oh, let me just go interview a couple people, relating to this, and then I can make it about what's happening here in Bucks County.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So that ended in like December. I think they gave it to us through the end of the year. And then we just didn't have it. And then Cyril got an email about this pilot program coming out, and he applied for it, and had to ask me a bunch of questions, because filling out for like awards and all of those things, like anything like this, takes a significant amount of time and effort. This is like every time I get a grant or whatever, it's a whole situation. So
Yeah, grant writing is not something for the faint of heart.
no.
It is not.
No, no. And it's worse when it's journalism. I think it's worse because you have the hardest, toughest critics on your writing, like, of all time.
Yep.
So, yeah. So Cyril applied for it, and then we just found out that we got it. So going forward, we'll get the instructions, but it's going to be we're going to get the AP newsroom back. I assume that's the way it's going to work, and then it will give us access to photos, videos, and stories, and we'll see what else.
I mean, that is huge. I mean, like you said, is like so much of that of the work of like the frame around stories. I mean, because there's a lot of stuff when you want to provide context, you want to provide just, okay, the what happened stuff, that the AP is, obviously known for, is to have to reinvent the wheel every single time. I mean, it just takes work. And to have that as the kind of buffer and the framework for which you can really then focus on what the story is about for the readers of the Beacon and stuff is just incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also huge, like, because it gives us more content, and people don't have to go to other news organizations to get that content. You know what I mean? They can just still stay on the Beacon, and it fills out our reporting, I think, a lot. Since they have, reporters in every state house in the country, it's like,
Totally. And look, and I really think this, I mean, this is, I mean, really, I was a shout out to the entire reading community and supporter of the Beacon too, as well, for this, because the folks that are part that also got onto this pilot program, right? They're no joke. I mean, it's not like just a bunch of like, okay, yeah, like, the Beacon and then a bunch of other kind of random things that you've never heard of. No, these are like established newsrooms, like local newsrooms across the country. Award winning in many cases.
yes.
Yes.
When I go to conferences, when I go to the Lion Publishers Conference every year, the people on this list are the ones that win the awards,
Right.
not us, yet.
Yet. Well,
But
but that's just exactly it, right? And you think about this, being in that group, right? It's selected to be part of this
mhm,
stuff, and given, how the Beacon as a relatively young, like,
yeah,
media project, is incredible. And I
yeah,
think that just goes directly to the quality of the work that's coming out, the focus on like details and local elections and in the community. By doing all those things, you look at the kind of the background or what the AP was looking for in this fund for journalism is really everything the Beacon does, right?
yeah,
And is right from the get-go has been about, this is where we need to put the focus because, as Cyril has said so many times, to try to, rectify the news desert that we're in.
yeah,
And the Beacon is just been stand up. Well deserved, certainly.
yeah. We're excited. Yeah. It's like it's really good for everything. Like, I said to Cyril yesterday, I was like, we're really doing this.
Mhm. Yep.
It's really happening. Like, we're like a legit newspaper now. Like,
Yeah. Did you get that little chill up your spine? Like, oh shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. Yeah. No, it's things like this that you're just like, whoa. I didn't just build a website. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's, no, it's not just a website, right? That is clearly. And I think that, for the first conversation I had with you about what you want to do with the Beacon and the kind of like the thoughts for it, and it's true also with Cyril too, as well, was everything was long term.
Yeah.
Everything was, look, we want to do this right. We want to build this from the ground up with the kind of local reporting on the ground, kind of staff and writing that is going to be focused on, kind of no holds bars journalism, right? And this
Yeah.
is with that local focus, the things that just not get the spotlight anymore because of, the mass defunding of local newsrooms that have happened,
Yeah.
right? And then when you've
Yeah.
got the only alternative in town is kind of like, really a right wing hack job of a newspaper now, is just, not that I have opinion about that or anything, but, right. But
I'll keep
really,
my mouth
like,
shut.
no, you just look at you look at the lack of coverage of what just Fitzpatrick's vote just did. You look at the lack of coverage of the hands-off protest. You look at,
Yeah.
the completely, ignoring the significant impacts of this kind of Trump regime that's going to have locally, where the Beacon is exactly the opposite, right?
Right.
Automatically going to kind of, how is this going to translate into what's happening locally? How are people responding to this stuff? What are the stories that matter here? And it just, I'm just like, I'm thrilled that this exists. I'm thrilled to be kind of like a little part of this. And this is, congratulations, Emily. this is really, seriously.
Thank you. Yeah. Cyril got this one. This one's his.
Yeah, I'll send him his own special little thank you and present, Cyril, if you're listening.
I got the original AP one. You got this one.
But really,
So,
yeah, it's just incredible. You look at the team of writers. Again, I could just toot the horn all day long here, but like the team of writers that have come on, right? The perspectives and the reporting, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to really to highlight, Melissa Rizzo's piece on this, on this
Melinda.
bird, or I'm sorry, Melinda's, on the bird book, right?
Hmm.
It's like, you know, it might seem like a small thing, but
Yeah.
this is actually things in the community, right? These are
Yeah.
things, little things that kind of matter. And the people who put their heart and soul into that
Yeah.
little book, that means the
Right.
world to get that kind of recognition,
Yeah.
right? And it's like homegrown right here. That's really awesome.
And those are things that used to be in newspapers.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. No, I do like that.
Exactly. Well, let's kind of make this happy sandwich, kind of have some kind of yucky kind of meat in between for a minute, shall we? Because well, actually, no. Let's keep the happiness going for a little bit, because I want to talk about just your take on the hands-off protests that took place this past weekend. I was at the Quakertown one, as I said. Was there all day. I it was a joy to be there. It was
Yeah.
a joy to be there with people, the vast majority of people that, that kind of went up and talked to, and other folks had talked to had never been to a protest before. They were from Quakertown. They weren't like bust in from out there. They weren't George Soros plants, as Elon Musk would like us to believe. But there were people who were just genuinely concerned about things. The number of vets that came out that are worried about, kind of access to medical care, right, are seeing,
Yeah. Yeah.
was impressive.
Hmm.
I mean, there were like, I could count the number of people that were out there in wheelchairs, worried about their social security benefits and disability benefits and things like this. Um, and still, the entire event was so positive.
Hmm.
And kept on hearing, like, I'm so glad this is happening here. I'm so glad it's happening. Vast majority of cars that went by were honking in support, like waving
Yeah.
in support. And you ask people, well, when was the last time you remember there being like a protest like this in Quakertown? And everyone's like, never. And that was the point, right? I mean, that was kind of the point. It's like, let's showing people you're not alone, right? And that we're going to find each other together was just incredible. But I mean, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I didn't get to go last weekend. I was overoccupied with my
Doing the
life.
things.
But I had a lot of friends that went to the Harrisburg protest. It looked pretty well attended. I've been to quite a few protests on the steps of the Capitol. Because you can go just whenever you want. There's always going to be a
There's always something,
protest
right? Yeah,
there.
right.
This one
Exactly.
looked better attended than many. But I also think in the Harrisburg area, we're slightly spoiled by how many protests we can have. I mean, I imagine it's like if you lived in DC.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
Like that's where the protests happen all the time. So, yeah, but all of my friends that went said it was amazing. All the speakers were great. I saw some pictures. The signs that have come out of these protests
Yeah.
are gold,
Yeah.
pure gold.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so I was really happy to see how many people were in Quakertown and Doylestown, and like I thought that was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, and I really think that, and being part of, Upper Bucks United, which is the group that I was working with for the Quakertown rally, um, really had that focus is like, look, there's been a lack of attention. I shouldn't put lack of attention. I said this kind of like cohesive organizing focused on the Upper Bucks region, right? I mean,
yeah,
obviously in Central Bucks, you've got both, one of the top three school districts in the, size school districts in the state, right? You've got, it's the county seat and all that kind of activity that
right,
happens around Doylestown. And then Lower Bucks County is that you're closer to Philadelphia. So there's a lot of
right,
that back and forth. So you've got this, kind of gap and, to be with people that are really thinking through, again, that long term, not just like how
yeah,
do we have a protest, but how do we, really build power in community
yeah,
is impressive. And you keep on hearing stories like that. I was like rereading a whole bunch of news stories from different local newspapers this morning, and you heard that again and again and again, like across the
yeah,
country, about that kind of approach, which is really, I think, that is a positive development, I think, in terms of what we need
yeah.
going forward.
I loved. Did you? I mean, I'm assuming you did read that one article of ours from the different organizers
Yes.
about participating in municipal government and your local clubs.
Yep.
Um, Whether Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. Being part of the process of governing is so important. And I know you and I both agree with this
Yep.
and believe this and walk the walk. But I really love that it's like, okay, excellent job protesting. There's also this. Both need help.
Right.
You
And I
know?
think and the big difference too, I think the next step in that process, which was really impressive again, was, and we just had this conversation with a group the other day, was uh, is not just like the statement that the local stuff is important, but people ask like thinking about, okay, how do we make sure, how do we kind of like reduce the barrier of entry for people kind of doing local? How do we say this is how you run for local office, or this is the kind of things that we can do next? Like those practical things. Because I know, for example, like on in like that Right for Bucks organization, for example, I
Yeah.
remember Amy Connect was, did a report on kind of one of their meetings and things where that's what they do. They train people in how to like like get rid of the leadership of the Bucks County Republican Party, how to run
Hmm.
for office, how to file complaints, and how to do this, the nitty
Hmm.
gritty, all within kind of like this ideological context. And that's, I think that's been one of the gaps of the broad kind of center to the left of just like, how do we kind of engage in not a boring way, but like in a way that's about community building, of
Yeah.
engaging in our local politics. And so hearing those discussions about building power through those nitty gritty things, that seems like a sea change. It may seem small, but for me it feels like a real shift.
Yeah. We've been doing it in my local municipality. Shout out Camp Hill Democrats. We've been doing it for 9 years, I want to say. We have been ground up building infrastructure for our club and getting people to join the club, come to our events. We've been having events so that people come to them. There's, like a couple happy hours a year, there's monthly
Yep.
meetings, there's like, it's more fun than that. We have a picnic in the summertime. We had a petition signing event. Best Best ever. We had 85 people sign up for this petition signing event where everyone ate lasagna and all of the candidates that we could sign for showed up.
That's so
And
awesome.
everyone got in line and signed everyone's petitions. It was done in 1 hour. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
all the petitions were done. Yeah.
Well, I know,
It-
and I know that the Penridge Democrats, for example, right here, like at the region, started doing the same kind of stuff. Like this year,
yeah.
they had big pancake breakfast, started
Yeah.
bringing kind of people in, and and again, this is like that's phenomenal. I remember talking with Jonathan Casa, who's he's one of the he's on the school board of North Penn School Board, for example. I know it's
Yeah.
Montgomery County, but whatever. And I interviewed him a while back, like when all the school board stuff was going on, and because they went kind of a different way than say Penridge and Central Bucks when it came to these like Moms for Liberty folks and everything. They got
Mhm.
a majority kind of like Democratic board, and they were able to stave off these attacks by Moms for Liberty and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And just talking to him about it, it's like, and it was the same. It's the same story again and again. What did they
Mhm.
do? They did that kind of like groundwork. They did the organizing locally. They kind of like they informed people what was happening, why the school board was important, got a great slate of candidates, and kind of like
Yeah.
took over the majority of that board in a way that they will defend the school district before they got the all the nastiness that we got up here.
Yeah, I mean, like it takes like just like any other organization works, like your party committees are like that. Like we have committees within it for, marketing and like I do the postcards. Surprise. I did the logo. I do all of the branding. um but we have like a committee specifically for candidates that tells them, like, if anyone says, hey, I'm thinking about running for borough council, school board, inspector of elections, judge of elections, we have one guy on the team who that's his job is to explain that and what needs to be done. And then we have get out the vote committee that does that, and we have a whole door knocking situation. Honestly, the best thing we have, I have to say. I mean, like Cumberland County Democrats want all of our stuff now. Our former president is like pretty high up in Cumberland County Democrats,
Mhm.
but we have these we make these post-it notes to stick on their door stickies, so they look like the postcard, but everyone gets like a little stack of them, and you just have to walk to 50 houses and stick them on the doors,
That's
like
awesome.
on get out the vote weekend, and everyone brings them to the polls with them, like everyone.
What a great idea. There you go.
Yeah,
Stealing it, stealing it, stealing it, stealing
you can order the stickies on
it.
Zazzle. They're
Okay.
called post-it notes.
Just called Post-it notes.
Yeah,
Excellent.
but they're like big. They're like 6 by 10.
So
So
do you actually have what, like, do you have on there, like, just like the postcard that you designed and just print it on
yeah,
there and then you go up and stick there?
yeah. So I get it printed. So like it's like a slightly different design. I
Hmm.
mean, uh, so the postcard's obviously two-sided,
The dimensions and
but
stuff like too as well. Yeah.
yeah. So I have to rework it a little bit, but like it has like the candidates that are on the ballot. And then it has information about the Campbell Democrats and all of the important times and deadlines. Like that's what we send. So like the get out the vote one that we stick on the door is like it's Tuesday, like like find your polling place. Do you have a
Yeah.
question? Here's a phone number, but we have a whole thing. We have the postcards that go out to everyone. Then we have a letter that goes out, or a smaller postcard that goes out to all the apartments because we can't door knock them efficiently, or sticky note them.
Mhm.
And then we have the sticky notes that go out, but then we also have like a whole door knocking thing, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna bring that up with we have the Upper Bucks United is gonna have a launch party on May 10th, right?
Hmm.
And was it really kind of cool hearing people talk through the organization of that? Because yes, it's gonna be like people come together, have some food, right? Get to know each other and stuff, but then break out and working tables. Hey, who wants to work on this? Who wants to work on this? So like organizing happening in like
Yeah.
right away,
I
like little
mean,
stuff like this.
just like with anything else, everyone has their talents, right? Coming
Yep.
to the table, what's their best thing to volunteer at, for the organization? And that's how people like just split into little groups, and then we go try to find more people for that. Like we have an events committee that puts on like all of our events. Like we have like a, $100 a ticket like fundraiser every year with like wine and food and all of the things, like, but now we have enough money every year to make sure all of the local candidates go to all of the houses in this borough,
That's awesome.
which is like it seems simple, but like you get, a barrage of like the $100,000 campaign situations where you get like 10 postcards from your state rep candidate, and then you don't know anything about your local candidates. And this helps the local candidates not have to pay for any kind of, advertising like that to run.
It's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. And I think, I mean, I do think, obviously we've been saying this for a while, but, organizing is really where it's going to be at. Right.
Yeah.
And that's distinct from mobilizing for protests, right? The
Yeah.
organizing is that nitty gritty daily stuff.
Yeah.
And, this is why I also wanted to flag that one story about, these 10 national unions kind of basically saying, you know what, we need to stand up and we need to kind of, protect immigrant workers, and we need to
Yeah.
demand that that employers and university administrators and hospitals, right, are going to refuse to kind of cooperate with kind of ICE and the other stuff, because like the labor movement is one of the other depositories of knowledge about organizing. Right?
Yeah.
Not all of them have been very good about doing it for a while, right? When they went into the whole business unionism model. But if you
Yeah.
look at, if you look at National Nurses United, you look at SCIU, you look at the turn that the United Auto Workers has started to take now once again, you look at the flight attendants union, right? The organizing that they've been doing, right, has been that kind of model of getting back to the basics of engage with members and so on. To see them
Yeah.
kind of now, okay, we're not going to kind of like put our heads down and just protect our own members. We're actually going to stand up like for like workers writ broadly, right?
Right.
And making demands upon employers, not just the level of a contract negotiation, but at the level of kind of workers' rights in general. So that was
Right.
like, I mean, I think that was huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and close
Unions
to my
know what
heart.
unions have known how to organize since the beginning of unions.
Well,
It's like
right,
the whole
exactly,
thing.
exactly, exactly, right. And
Yeah.
it's
There's just not that many of them left anymore,
well, yeah, right, especially good ones, right, that are really,
yeah,
one, and it's good to start to see the turn, right? I mean, I remember
yeah,
when SEIU like left the AFL-CIO because they were sick and tired. They couldn't like there was such a disagreement over like, okay, where are you going to put your resources, right? Simply in lobbying politicians. And like nobody was ever saying that's not important. Like,
right,
nobody ever says that, right? It
right,
wasn't an either or, but it's like you need to be kind of organizing members, right? People who are
right,
already your members. It's not just enough to
right,
say like we are going to take care of you. No,
right.
you have to get people engaged because otherwise you're going to set yourself up to fail. And you've seen this kind of like shift to organizing. The Starbucks Workers United, you see that work that goes on. You see what happened, the organizing around Amazon, right, that continues to go on. There's
Right.
that kind of movement, and if that continues to build, especially in the face of these attacks, like
Yeah.
that's going to make everybody like everybody in a better situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, unions had it for a while and it's time to, you know, show up and do the things and not just be a lobbyist firm,
One
you
hundred
know.
percent, 100%. And I was
Yeah.
thinking about, in such stark contrast. I don't know if you saw this, but on the New York Times, the Daily podcast, they interviewed the president of Princeton,
I
who's
didn't
the
see it.
only like major Ivy League university, the president who's come out and directly like said, we are not cooperating with what's happening with the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Right. And he's actively publicly come out and said what's going on instead of kind of like trying to cut deals or trying to lay low. He's basically making an affirmative case about why we need to defend this institution. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that labor unions and, in our own workplaces, in our own communities, we need to also push our own like elected officials, like, CEOs of companies, heads of institutions to also make these kind of affirmative statements.
Yeah.
And I understand the fear. I understand the concern. There are real resources and there are real consequences like that are on the page. But
Yeah.
having some of your students being disappeared into I don't know who the hell knows where, it's not an option, right? For
Right.
example.
Yeah.
So that was kind of okay. There's an example of like a head of a university in that case. Should be the model, right? And then for all the other places that where we work, where we go to where we go to church, where I mean all this stuff, we all that the lack of public statements, the lack of affirmative case there, you know what, we need to start putting pressure in those spaces too as well for people to stand up
Right.
and do the right thing like that.
Right. Yeah. No, I think sometimes you got to just say it out loud, right?
You do. I mean, and I understand, like, I look at the fact that the American Postal Workers Union, right, was a signatory of that letter. At the moment, they are under direct attack by the Trump administration.
Yeah.
I mean, their attack is not something that is hypothetical that might come down the road. It is direct.
Right.
And they are standing up and they are saying no.
Yeah. I mean, someone who writes for us, I'm not going to mention which one of our writers, but one of our writers had a contract job with Dickinson.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that this is like that Dickinson should stand up or whatever. It's just Dickinson lost funding, and this one writer of ours is now out. You know,
Yeah, right.
like, and it's worth saying that out loud.
Well, and
I
not
was
only that, like, say, for example, if Dickinson does not stand, just use Dickinson as an example. I
yeah,
don't know the context or whatever goes on,
yeah,
but just as an example, if Dickinson or other universities or other employers don't stand up, when
mm-hmm,
somebody then loses funding and people get fired, the tendency is also to not tell people.
right,
So not only right does the university get in that case, like the college, get the impact of those fundings, but then the public writ large doesn't understand and doesn't see those consequences if they don't directly know the person that has gotten removed, right? I
right,
mean, that's
yeah,
the tragedy of it. Is like, so then you
yeah,
say, oh well, everyone seems to still be going. No. Like, I'll give you
right,
an example. I know somebody that works at a nursing home,
mm-hmm,
right? And if anybody's got older folks in a nursing home, a lot of the people that work in the nursing homes are immigrants,
mm-hmm,
right? And there's several nursing homes in the area who suddenly 20 people are gone. 20 of their workers are gone.
Yeah.
People who are here on temporary protected status, people here all legally here.
Yeah.
Suddenly, boom, visa's gone there. But do we know about this? No.
I know.
Because not only the people who are having their visas removed, right, and kicked out of their jobs, they're terrified, especially after what's going on in El Salvador. And the corporations just want to kind of like, okay, we don't want to ruffle the feathers. We're worried about our public relations. We don't want to lose business.
Yeah.
But what about those people?
Yeah. So there was a story a couple weeks ago, local to me in Harrisburg, about the I don't want to get it wrong, Bengali, Nepali immigrants, but they were like here on protected status. There's a whole community of them here.
Yeah.
And 3 of them got deported, but there's nowhere to get deported to. Oh, Bhutanese. Bhutanese,
that's
Nepali.
right. For Bhutan. Yeah.
And so we reported on it. There was a press conference by the Democrats about how it was crazy that these protected, long-term residents of the area were getting deported by ICE or whatever. Cyril was like, do you know anyone that we could interview about this in the community? And I was like, well, one of my daughter's best friends is Nepali. Let's ask her. And we asked, and she talked to her mom and dad, and her dad called all around, and no one wanted to say anything.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's someone else that I know who's also part of that Bhutanese Nepali community. He works at a real estate agency. I sent him an email, no response, right?
Yep.
Because it doesn't do them any good, right? Like,
yep.
So you don't get to hear these stories of how scared these people are because they're too scared to tell the stories.
Right. And this is precisely why this is where our institutions need to stand up, especially ones, I mean, again, you say like you recognize to ask an individual who might be targeted as an individual to do the heavy lifting of telling that story on their own I don't, can you blame that person for not wanting to? No, hell no.
No.
Right. But if you are the kind of the head of a kind of multi-million-dollar like business, right, that relies upon kind of people working there, right, in that status, right, and you supposedly are kind of like someone who is welcoming or kind of does a great public service, and you say nothing,
right,
that's a moral failure on the part of that business, of that organization, of that institution.
Yeah.
And those institutions need to be able to take a risk at this point, because otherwise, who are we asking to take the risk? The people who are the ones in the crosshairs right now.
Right.
It's crazy.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in other news, there's like, the good thing, I like to see that we finally are getting a little bit of the sense of balance happening in the Trump regime right now. I mean, no, really, seriously, you got to give them credit. I mean, because as the stock market is plunging, right, the cases of measles are going up. So you kind of got this, like, we're kind of like, we call it like, I don't know, like what would you call it? Like a viral offset of the stock market. I should be laughing about this, but it's like, seriously. I mean, that's the kind of like topsy-turvy world that we're in right now. It's like, it's crazy.
Right. Yeah. It's insane.
Are you buying gold yet? That's the question.
No. I
you hear all these like right-wing talkers like, that's why I invest in gold and like in beet juice. Like,
I've got a silver bar in my safe. Oh, and just a fun note. Let's see if I can show this.
What is
that? Is
that a buffalo head quarter?
No.
A nickel? What is that?
It is. Let's see if you can see it on the back. This is fun.
I can't. I see little stars around the edge. Bicentennial coin? No. What is
it? This is.
Is it a doubloon?
It is a Spanish 2 real from 1782.
That is
How
pretty
cool is
awesome.
that? Now, the funny story about this, because you're asking, what are we collecting to make sure we have enough money? So my grandma had this in her office. I've been cleaning out her house. Kevin's been hearing the stories, but for everyone else at home, um, we have a whole sorting situation here because you have to look through every one because she likes to pick out special ones, but also everything else. So this Spanish coin from 1782 was in this jar of coins
Wow.
with random shit.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I have this now and it is worth something.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I think it might be worth $100 or something, but
Hey,
it's cool.
it's something. Yeah, and it's cool too as well. That's the key.
Yeah. I've learned all about special coins and bills. It's fascinating. And if you want a cheap way to invest, look for mistakes. That's,
Look for
that's the key.
mistakes. That's what you've
Look
learned?
for mistakes on any coin, any dollar. If there's a printing mistake, a stamping mistake, those are all worth money.
I remember there was this one period of time, I don't know, this I was young, and it was like um somehow there was a story in the news. I was probably like I probably in like middle school, you know. It was like there was a story in the paper about something along these lines. There were these there's like those the pennies that had the wheat on the back of
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
like those old
yeah.
ones,
Wheat pennies.
the wheat pennies, and there was one
I have a
I
bag of
could
them over here.
yeah, I could be misremembering that for some reason that's the one that sticks in my mind. But there was,
Mm,
you know, how each one comes from a separate mint and it's stamped with that
mhm,
mint. Well,
mhm.
something was inaccurate in terms of the stamp, and there was only a few hundred of them before they caught the problem. And
Yeah.
so, like, my friends and I were like going mad of like searching through every pile of pennies we could find to like, you know, find the one that was going to get it because they were supposedly worth like thousands of dollars, something like that at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
Yep.
We have
Yep. If you want another good thing to invest in for all you people out there, Magic the Gathering cards. There is a local shop up in Coopersburg called Tales from Adventure, and they do like mostly comic books, but they also have some games and they do some tabletop role playing games and stuff there. But Magic the Gathering is really their go to. And if you go to their website, that's all that's on their website is trading these things, and they have a glass case inside there. I'm like, oh, there's those cards in there. Those must be, oh, those must be the special ones or whatever. And I was,
magic.
and some couple came in and they wanted to look at them, right? And they looked at it, and so they had to come and unlock it. They stood by them as they were looking at this card, and the card, one card, playing card from Magic the Gathering was like
Yeah,
$900 for this one
yeah,
card. I'm like, wow. But
yeah. Now we have like all these pennies. I mean, I have a handful of pennies. These are the special
those
ones
are the special ones.
that we'll take to a coin guy. But I found like I was going through my grandparents' stuff because I was moving stuff to their new house, and I found out it was my grandma that loves to collect this stuff, but 1976 bicentennial $2 bills,
Oh, wow.
valuable.
Oh, good
She
to
has a
know.
stack of them. Secondarily, there's something called a bar note, which is a $1 bill signed by Mr. Barr, who was the
Mr.
treasurer.
Barr.
I want to say William Barr, but I'm thinking Bill Barr, but I
It's
don't.
older than that, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
It is older than that. It's from the 70s as well. I think it might be like right around that same time, but there was like this stack of dollar bills, and I was like, what the hell are these dollar bills? And then I look at one, I'm like, these are all like the same kind of, and I like scanned it, and it was like bar notes, and they're like worth money, and they're a dollar, right? Because this Treasury Secretary Barr was only in office. His name was only on those dollar bills for 28 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So if something ever seems strange to you, collect that money as the strange thing is happening, and and then preserve it well. That's what I would say that my grandma has not done is preserved it well. Preserve it well.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's
Oh,
fascinating.
there you
It's
go.
my new side hobby that I don't need, but
There we
you
go.
know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'll have to rethink it. I was thinking my side hobby. I've been thinking about what do I want to do for like I need to do something this summer that's like a hobby, and I was thinking foraging. Foraging would probably be good. I
Oh,
think
I
for
got a better one for you, Kevin.
okay, what?
Magnet fishing.
Oh, I know. I've seen people do that, but
It's way more fun than you even think it is.
no, I'm totally on board with it. I think it's like a really cool thing, but I'm like a lot of times you're gonna get the best stuff with magnet fishing when you're by roads, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's when people dump stuff into the mostly.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
I know,
Trust me.
I know.
Trust me, dude.
Have you done it? Have you done it?
Oh, we have 2 magnets. I've been doing it for years, since the pandemic, because we were watching YouTube videos. Yeah, there's all sorts of random shit you can get. Oh, Amy says book collecting. I have too many books already, Amy. They weigh too much. Um, yeah, no, magnet fishing it's so relaxing. It's almost like fly fishing, because you like swing it to like get it far and you drag it, and there's plenty of things that come up. And then there's the other things because you're looking in the water too.
Mhm.
And so then you see other things. Like we found a little tiny like speed racer motorcycle thing from the
Hmm,
50s
hmm.
randomly in a place where people are all the time.
So let me ask you this then. Okay, so now I need a tip. So then do you have like how deep of a kind of like stream or river is optimal, do you think?
I think it's harder when it's super deep because then you can't necessarily unstick your magnet. If that
Gotcha.
makes sense. Like the the hardest part about magnets is as you're dragging them, what they're going to get caught on, and if you're going to be able to retrieve said magnet.
So you're getting good stuff even if you're doing it where you can see the bottom?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
I mean, good is relative. What are you looking for? I'm cleaning the environment while I do it because I'm pulling old nails and like
Yeah. Though that got me thinking about it
bars,
because we're going to do some
rebar.
like stream cleanup stuff around here. I think that would be a really good thing to do as a family too. But that might actually, I think my son might really dig that too. Well, both my kids would really dig that actually. With
It's so
so,
fun.
all right,
Our
okay,
daughter
all
loves
right, you're okay. It's growing on me. It's growing on
it.
me.
Okay, next,
But I still want
next.
to go find mushrooms
Okay, I have a friend
and
that does
berries.
that.
Yeah,
He's morel hunting right now. But next, gold.
gold.
It's in the river.
Oh, in the river. Gotcha.
It's
I
in the
thought you meant like
Susquehanna.
okay, gold.
There
Like,
is gold in Pennsylvania.
there's gold in them there rivers.
There's gold in them near rivers. There are. I watched like Backyard Gold Mine something,
Hmm.
and and there's like all these different ways that you can get gold, but they were talking about where these different hotspots are, and like up above Pittsburgh area, there's
Hmm.
like a big gold reserve that's just like
Hmm.
washing down from the mountains. But they say there's placer gold in the Susquehanna, which is where you can get big chunks and stuff.
Interesting.
So I have plans. My one friend is dating a guy with a boat, and we're gonna go to the islands in the Susquehanna, and I'm gonna search for gold
That's cool.
this summer.
I love that river too as well, especially
Oh,
around the Harrisburg area.
oh,
I mean, literally, it's like that was one place. I mean, whatever, it was impractical for me, but I'm like, I literally was like, man, if I could find a way to kind of move out there, because I've been to Harrisburg a few times before I moved to Pennsylvania, but I remember when I started going out there on a little bit more regular basis, I was like, oh man, this is just beautiful through here. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, really so nice, such a nice region.
yeah. Well, there's like lots. I mean, it's such a big, wide valley,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
exactly.
there's like all of the tributaries.
And
So
then the
like there's
mountains come
water
up. Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, it's really, really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I want to just say one of the few things. I want to plug a few stories here in the Beacon before
yeah,
we have to kind of go over here because really this week when I just said at the top of the show, it was like not only was it a big week for the Beacon when it comes to being part of the Associated Press program, but also just the degree of stories that came out this week. Really like phenomenal stuff. I mean, I definitely think, I mean, I know a lot of people are paying attention to this already, but make sure go read Cyril's piece in there on Representative Brian Fitzpatrick's vote in favor of the quote unquote SAVE Act. For those of you who don't know about the SAVE Act, it's supposedly about protecting the integrity of the ballot, which should be code word for everybody out there at this point, about disenfranchising people.
Yeah.
Right. This is a long thing. I mentioned Paul Weyrich, the founder of the Heritage Foundation, kind of like years ago, way back in 1980 or so. He's famous for kind of giving this speech, a bunch of kind of conservative Christians about everybody. He called it goo, like this goo problem, like about good government and how it was a problem, right? Because he basically was saying, is like, look, the fact of the matter is, the more the people vote, the less well we do. So he doesn't want more people to vote. And that has been a long-term right-wing project in order to disenfranchise people through legal means, quote unquote, to kind of make it harder for people to vote, to dissuade them from voting. And this is a perfect example of this with the SAVE Act. What makes this even more disgusting is that not only you're going to disenfranchising the very people that will always get disenfranchised, the poor, the young, the kind of non-white kind of peoples, like New America, all that kind of stuff. But it was unclear about how they were doing this, about, well, it looks like if you are a woman who changed her name, or a person who changed their name when they got married, and that changed name does not correspond to your birth certificate, right, then you would have to go in person, right, to a location in order to get that rectified before you'd be able to kind of vote or register to vote.
Yeah.
And again, there's some people that are sending stuff. Look, Pennsylvania already has stuff that kind of meets these kind of requirements. I mean, if you think that's going to protect us, and we haven't been paying attention, right? So this is a problem. So, I mean, seriously, it's like, okay, Pennsylvania already complies. They don't care. They're not doing this for a real reason. They're doing this because they want people not to vote. So there was an amendment that came up and say, hey, did you notice that the way this act is actually could be potentially disenfranchising upwards of like 69 million women, right, who changed their name when they kind of got married. Let's put an amendment here and make sure that they're not affected by it. Nope. It was voted down.
I had a conversation with a girlfriend about this last night. She and I both have our maiden names, but she doesn't seem to think it's a big deal. She wanders somewhere in the middle between left and right. I'm never quite sure. She said, when you change your name, you got to go to the Social Security office and change your name with Social Security office. I never changed my name because my husband's last name is Lee, which would be really funny.
Emily Lee.
Right. So a couple of my friends call me Emily Lee because it's hilarious.
It's like, did you do it because you were a feminist? No, I just did it for the aesthetics.
I mean, also, my freelance business was called E.E. Smith Designs, and I was like, can't get rid of Smith. Sorry, it's part of my business.
Oh, you could have been E.E. Lily.
I know. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can't say it out loud. It's too much. But what I know is that when women change their name, then when they get divorced and they want to change their name back, it's like a whole second
Big
hassle.
Deal.
So the idea that any of this is going to stop us from being able to vote is annoying. You know, I'm annoyed for women in general, but just it feels like gerrymandering.
100%.
You know, oh, get those women, you know. But I think the funny part is the women that they're trying to get not to vote probably already haven't changed their name. So,
right.
I don't know.
But it's the knock-on effect, right? I mean, that's the purpose of this stuff, is that you get people, one, you make it a real thing, so that you're going to have concrete. You watch, as soon as, we got our primary coming up, right? So the primary time come up, we're going to hear examples after examples of this happening, right? And so where it's going to happen for real. So what's that do? That's going to discourage, right, people from voting in the fall who might be in
Right.
that situation because like, oh crap, I have to do all this stuff. I don't really have time to do this. And who does it
Right.
disproportionately affect? People who are poor, people who don't have the time and resources, right? People who live in
Right.
rural communities, people who live in kind of like in cities that don't, are kind of might not have access to those documents that are readily available. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. Like, and if you're like a young person, if you've moved 14 times, right, in the past
Yeah.
4 years, right, and you're trying to wonder where the hell your original birth certificate is at this point, right?
Yeah.
That's where it's going to have an impact,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Like
do
it's
check.
hard enough with registering to vote in time for the election, just the way it is now.
Right.
That discourages a lot of people because they're like, oh shoot, I don't have enough time. And it's like 2 weeks, but then you're like, oh, I need to get a new birth certificate.
Yep. Exactly. And then
Yeah.
then there's these two other stories that to kind of like link them together, like both the story about how the Pennsylvania has come out and basically said, look, we're not going to kind of like ask school districts to kind of get rid of their DEI programs, right? Because we already comply with it. And it's good. I mean, it's like it's not a direct kind of like in your face, we are going to resist this stuff. It's more like saying, no, we based upon like laws that
Federal law.
exist. Right? We are complying with the law, right? There's kind of like a restating of the obvious to people that are doing that. So why I say that is because if you look at some of the headlines about this, right, it seems as if like, oh, Pennsylvania is fighting back. Keep an eye on this, right? Because on the one hand, that might be true from the state level, right? But every school district is going to feel this pressure.
Yeah.
Right. So don't feel like this is just, okay, it's taken care of. Somebody else is going to take care of it. This is something that we need to watch. Same thing. This is why I was so happy to see this, the article from Maya Van Rossum about the fracking ban, right? Because in that she's like, look, the Trump administration and kind of allied legislators within the state will probably want to come after this because they're going after all these kind of projects. They want to kind of increase the amount of fossil fuels that we're going to be using.
Yeah.
And she says in there, right, look, the Delaware River Basin Commission is an independent commission that is not kind of like, doesn't have a direct line from the federal government or even the state government. It's an independent commission that oversees this stuff and that has this ban in place. And she said, like, so look, no, they don't need to comply with this stuff. However,
Right.
we've seen a case after case after case where people are kind of like, complying in advance, right? They're worried that something could happen. So they start to kind of roll things back. So again, something to keep an eye on to make sure that, we don't rest on our laurels so that, somehow this can't happen.
I'll just say, I was at Borough Council the other night, our monthly meeting, and it was depressing as hell because it doesn't even matter whether you comply or not. They're just taking away money.
Right.
Like, we had applied for a FEMA grant, FEMA with an F, not with a P, right? So the Federal Emergency Management Association or whatever, FEMA. It's literally, this grant money was for flood mitigation for areas that had problems to prevent flooding, right?
Right.
And we have a little underground stream that floods and it's in people's backyards. It's bad, right? And we had applied for the grant. All signs pointed to we were going to get the grant. It was maybe $500,000. I don't know, maybe $100,000. It's somewhere in that range. And I know that may sound like a lot, but it's really not when it comes to this stuff.
No, right. No, totally.
And we just found out the other day that the money's gone. There is no grant. They just shut it down.
Wow.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Well, and then you follow the money on that, right? I mean, you follow the money, then what happens? So next, when that floods, right?
Right.
Individual homeowners, right, are going to have to pay for their flood mitigation like over and over again, or, right, somehow, right, you have to raise the funds. And hey, I wonder how municipalities raise funds. Did they circulate a hat? No, it's like your choices if you want to solve the problem is that then you have to raise taxes. And that's a hell of a lot of money to raise from municipality.
And that's not the only problem, right? So my sister lives in the same town as me, and she lives over near this this underground stream where in the problem area. And she said there's a whole Facebook group, like a private Facebook group of them all discussing it. And they were mad that we are doing too many beautification projects and we should work on infrastructure. And I'm like, oh my God, like we've spent like the things that they don't understand that we're paying for with tax money and, you know, liquid fuels and stuff like that. It's like televising all of the sewer lines and the stormwater lines to see where the failure points are and then coordinating it with paving schedules over the next 5 years so we can use liquid fuels, because little municipalities, little tax base, you know?
Exactly.
And it takes a lot to not raise taxes. We raised taxes once, but they hadn't been raised for 20 years, you know?
Yep.
It was, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, people don't understand the trickle down effects of these things, because we can't, like, we have other problems in the borough that we need to pay for that we're saving up for in our funds, you know, like culverts.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
not exciting
well,
stuff.
and then unfortunately is like, again, a lot of those infrastructure projects are the kind of things that are uh, are not sexy things to people that pay attention to
No.
until their car is in a ditch or their basement's full of water.
Right.
Right. I mean, and by then you're too late. Right. So that when you're preventative doing that and trying to make the case, it's not like people are saying, yes, let's put up money for this. Right. So, it's a fight.
Right.
Whereas if it's like, like a derelict building on a corner that people have to pass every day, that they want that taken care of,
Right.
right? They'll come out kind of screaming about that stuff. But, I mean, that's the challenge. And that's where these grants, this is what it's all for, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the whole idea is that you do the things that you can't do individually, right? That's what government is.
Right. Right.
So,
Like generally everyone knows the infrastructure across the United States is old, right?
crap. Right now.
Like
Well,
the
falling apart. Let's put it
falling
that. Yeah.
apart. Yeah. Like, well, I mean, you think about the national highway system was started in 1950-ish, right?
Yep.
So that makes it 75 years old. Guess how long concrete lasts?
Not that long.
60 max.
Yep.
Without giant tractor trailers carrying all of our Amazon packages.
Yep.
You know. So I mean, it's just there's these cycles of renewal that you have to do, and that's why I was so happy with Biden's Infrastructure and Jobs Act, because
Yep.
the money was flowing down, people were getting jobs, projects were getting done. We got like a bunch of projects got done last year through grant funding, and I really don't like the opposite where they're like, oh, sorry, didn't get that community choice aggregation, that electricity thing I was talking about
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Public Utility Commission turned it down. They're like, we don't think so. So, but the fight continues. But yeah, bad news follows bad news, unfortunately.
It is, I mean, it's, and I just really hope, I mean, we haven't talked about this in a couple of weeks, but it's like, I just like always in the back of my brain every single day, literally, I think about this every day is, like climate change stuff. Right. And saying,
Yeah.
if you're seeing the disruption of like a FEMA grant for like stormwater mitigation, right, that go away.
Mm-hmm.
The scale difference of what we need to be doing on infrastructure as a nation, right? I mean, it's just like it's unthinkable that that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
And there's going to be real consequence of that. And I keep it coming back to, and this is going to your infrastructure issue. I remember when I was young, I lived in upstate New York, or Utica, New York, and my grandmother lived in Rotterdam, which is up by Schenectady, New York, near Albany, right? And so we'd go out to visit her like every so often, and you drive around the New York State Thruway, I-90. And if you've ever been to that part of New York State, right, it's just like rivers going through there, kind of gets mountainous, right? Lots of ups and downs, lots of bridges.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one time that we were going out to my grandmother's house. We're driving east, right? And we're kind of noticing that there were cars stopped on the highway on the other side of like going kind of westbound on that kind of stuff. And there's people out there like waving the air with shirts and flags and stuff like that, like cars pulled sideways. You're like, what the hell is going on? And as you approach it, you realize what happened is the bridge fell. So over this big chasm, and several cars had already gone over. Right? I mean,
Over
we
the
didn't know that at the
Hudson?
time. What's that?
Over the Hudson?
No, it's not the Hudson. It's down. It's like just like upstate New York. It's kind of like
Yeah.
right around the Amsterdam area. It's kind of midway between like Utica, New York, and Schenectady, New York. It's not was not a huge bridge like this. It was a
Yeah,
bridge that went over. You know how if you're going kind of like up 81 in Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
right? There's a bunch of places where you have these deep gullies, right? You
Yeah.
got these hollows that are just you have a tall bridge
Yeah.
over that one little space. It's not super long,
Right.
right? But you have to have it. And like literally the bridge collapsed.
Yeah.
And we found out later, the few cars went over before these other folks were slammed the brakes and kind of stopped traffic. Thank God. But I mean, like, think about that. And I was little,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was like, whatever, 50 years ago,
Yeah.
45 years ago. And we're 50 years into it. And there's, where's the deep investment at this point? It's not there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what Biden was doing. So,
Yeah, exactly.
because we needed it. So yeah, hopefully we don't lose all of that. But I can say we have like a grant that we're getting for solar panels for the municipal buildings.
That's
So
awesome.
what I learned about grant funding in the new Trump era, if the money made it to the bucket at the state level,
It's
you're
fine.
good.
Yeah.
You're good. But if it didn't make it out of the federal coffers into the state coffers,
It's gone.
gone. Yeah, that's essentially what I learned. So, yeah.
Well, there we have it. Well, there's everybody got to check out stuff at the Beacon. One more shout out once again to Amy Connect and Edie Weinstein. Weinstein or Weinstein?
I don't know.
Weinstein. So we'll go for Weinstein now.
I just call her Edie.
And Edie, if you're out there, you can correct me. But like great coverage of the hands-off protests, kind of in Bucks County, and it was great to see. I saw Amy out there and in Quakertown, taking pictures. Part of it all was just fantastic. And then she did a kind of few rounds when she was leaving, like honking her horn on the way out. Fantastic. Kudos, Amy. Fantastic. But Emily, anything else kind of happen at the Beacon that you want to kind of like shout out or saying this is coming down the pike?
Yeah, I mean, the only, well, I will say our voter guide is in process. It is in process. So stay tuned. We have 2 of our writers working diligently day and night to try to compile all of this information and sleuth out local people that are running for office for,
Note to self, look into the Beacon sweatshop working conditions.
Oh my gosh. We've got a whole red light, green light thing on the spreadsheet for when I can put it in the website. It's a whole situation. So
it's a huge undertaking. I mean, it's awesome.
It's a big list. It is a big list. The what is it called? Unofficial ballot, like the unofficial candidate list from Bucks County is 83 pages long.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. No, we took out inspector of elections and judge of elections, but because it's just too many. But yeah. But the other thing I wanted to say, like this is like the season in which I sign up to go to conferences to learn more from other publishers, because this was not my first career. And in the process, we go and we apply for awards. So I was applying for an award, which I am very excited about because we've never won one of these. A couple of years ago, when we were brand new, we almost got the Lion New Business of the Year. We were a finalist.
Awesome.
And this year, I'm trying for one of the categories that has nothing to do with editorial. So I'm applying for the Financial Health Award from Lion Publishers. So they work on 3 pillars of sustainability. It's like financial health, like uh, sustainable processes. I don't really know, and and then reporting, something like that.
Hmm.
I don't know. There's three pillars. The whole idea is like operations has to be strong, finances has to be strong, editorial has to be strong, and everything has to work together. And you have to treat your employees well. Otherwise, it won't last long term.
So this is becomes like, okay, so now you've got like a model then too as well. So that you get the award, and
Yeah.
that becomes also like, here's a great model of sustainability coming out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So I've been through a Lions sustainability audit in 2024, which happened at the same time that I was acquiring the Beacon. The timing was pretty good.
Couldn't have been
Except
better.
that we had our initial talk and I did not own the company. And then we had our second talk and then I owned the company. It changes how you factor it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm applying for this award and you have to like go and like it's always good when you apply for awards because you have an opportunity to like reflect and see what you've done and whatever. And I got these numbers that I just have to share because I think this is really impressive. So we did all of these projects that got us more money to expand different parts of our business, which I've been talking about throughout the year. But in terms of revenue, um, we started feeding our RSS, which is like our articles, to the Newsbreak app in 2023, like the end of 2023. So like the first year we made $500 or $600 total for a half a year. Last year we made over $11,000 on Newsbreak, increasing by 1,323% from the previous year.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the best is, so, we have this major funder that really keeps us going. And my whole goal has always been to get revenue from lots of different places so that we aren't relying on one person.
Right.
So that's pretty important. So this year, from 2023 to 2024, our revenue, not from our one major funder, increased by 68.5%.
Wow.
And our major funders' contributions decreased by 5.5%, while our expenses remained relatively flat with an increase of only 1.6%. It's huge, right?
It is. And if like anybody out there who is not familiar with like one doing obviously small business stuff, but also
Yeah.
this kind of work in particular, that's astonishing.
Yeah. I know.
I mean, literally, I mean, the ability to, the story almost always of small, like, or growing kind of independent kind of news oriented organizations is always one of how to avoid the red, right?
Yeah.
To be able to kind of talk about growth and is kind of like upward, like, then towards sustainability, toward building,
Yeah.
kind of investing in long-term
Yeah.
sustainability of the organization is outstanding. It really is.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, whether or not you get the award, that's impressive.
We should for that, right?
You should. I mean,
but
whatever.
that's not even the whole award application because I'm talking about my 5-year plan. I'm talking about our novel structure for our company going forward. It's all very exciting. And that was just a teeny little piece of it. So stay tuned. Look for notifications about us being a finalist for the Financial Health Award for Lion Publishers, because I am looking forward to that day when they tell me that, because I think I'm going to be a finalist.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's amazing, Emily. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. And I will be going to St. Louis, Missouri for the Lion Publishers Conference in September. I'm pretty excited. Have you ever been to St. Louis?
Yep, just not for very long. I think like, I drove across country a couple times to New Mexico. I had a friend who lived down there, and so kind of spent. It's kind of not not halfway, but it's like,
Ish.
spend like a day, kind of there, kind of
I
resting,
drove
eating,
by,
stuff like
I
that.
waved at the
Yeah,
arch. I
yeah,
never stopped.
yeah. I went
And
to a
now I'm
conference there
saying,
too as well. I went to like, yeah, I went to go to a conference years ago. But that was a long time ago. But both of those things were a long time ago. But
yeah,
never too long, right? I mean, always kind
yeah,
of wanted to spend more time there. And what it's funny when if you start talking with people, then you find out that they really love what's going on in that
yeah,
town.
yeah. It seems like a cool place. I'm interested to check it out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I'm going to Madison, Wisconsin for the Association of Alternative News Media
Yep.
conference. We also applied for some awards there. We'll see. This is our first year in that association, but they already gave us a grant that has allowed us to hire someone for ad sales, which is awesome. And just announced
Dun dun
yesterday, dun,
dun.
dun, dun, we are now members of the Pennsylvania News Media Association.
Woohoo! You know what we can do? We can give you one of these. Wait, is it going to do it? Oh, it's not going to do it. Let me see. Let me see. Wait. I got to do it. Here you go. That's my underused soundboard, everybody. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so it's all going good, We're plugging away.
Fantastic. Well, Emily, I did not keep my promise in keeping you kind of short here today. So,
It's fine. It
I
was me
just,
too.
whatever. I like talking with you. So, yeah, everybody, this is a huge moment, really. I mean, for so many reasons, at the like what's happening in our communities, the organizations that are kind of getting up and running, the community building that's happening, the power building, what's happening at the Beacon, and be able to kind of, I mean, really, this has been the hope for as long as the Beacon's been around. It's been one of my hopes to see in Pennsylvania, period. Right, to see this kind of organization grow from the grassroots, right, and to do what the Beacon has been doing, right. And it could not be possible without all of you too as well, who are out there sharing the stories from the Beacon, getting the kind of word out about the Beacon. When you know that there's going to be something that's going to go on, and you're going to see something reported in the Beacon, you say, hey, you want to find out, you got to go to the Beacon. That word of mouth stuff, the sharing of the stories, and of course, all of you who've kind of taken that step to become supporting members of the Beacon. This is what keeps it all going, right? The more, and to Emily's point, the more that we grow the membership base, right? The Bucks County Beacon, the healthier the organization becomes, and the less reliant it becomes upon single streams of money, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you want for financial health, kind of writ large, right? And that's not saying anything about a single stream of money, just saying like you never know
No,
what's going to happen. So
but I wish I had 5 of those or 10 of
exactly,
those
exactly.
of that size, because then we'd really be off to the races. But each individual, it's add more people, have more ability to have people come and go. Do you know, like that's the
Yep.
whole situation is you're always worrying about churn. You're always worrying about like whether this is going to be a long-term support. Some people, think they can afford it and then they send me an email and they say, "Oh, I'm going through tough times. Can you cancel my subscription?" Well, if I had a bunch more people, I mean, obviously I say yes, but if I had a bunch more people, I would be less worried about those $10 a month. Like
Absolutely. And look, and I always look at it like this too as well, is like we go, the more people that just head on over to, the buckscountybeacon.com, click on support the Beacon, become a supporter for as little as $1 a month, right? If you can swing $1 a month, or even better yet, if you can become a regular supporter at $5 a month, or $50 a year, that's even better. But look, if you're somebody who says like, look, I really can't spare the money, right? It's like, okay, totally understandable, right? Then but you want to support, keep on sharing those stories, keep on kind of like post them to your social media, letting other people know about that matters, right? Get people to subscribe to the YouTube channel, right? I mean, little things like that. Even if you are never watching YouTube other than just this show, click on the subscribe and hit that little notification bell, right? Why does that matter? Because the more subscriptions, the more people that's subscribing to that, right, the better the kind of like more eyes get to see it. And it's kind of, you know, a self kind of fulfilling prophecy, if you will, right? The more people that are subscribing, the more people that get to see that, the better that that is for the Beacon. So please do that too as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So everybody, there it is, right? Make the pitch one more time, right? If you get a chance, if you can, right? We're going to need independent, community-supported progressive media, right? There's no doubt about it, right? We've seen it. We know it. The last weekend, the reporting of last weekend is any indication. See, that's what we need. We need to see our voices that are kind of in there and reflected back, and the critical kind of attention to our communities that the Beacon does. So head on over to the buckscountybeacon.com, click on the support the Beacon button, become a supporter today if you can. $1 will do it. $1 a month. You can be a regular supporter for $5 a month or $50 a year. Or look, you just got kind of like, you know, big stack of bills sitting there, kind of Emily's stuff from Emily's grandma's house, right? That are sitting there. You don't know what to do with, right? You know, you're just going to drop a one-time donation. Just go to the support the Beacon button at buckscountybeacon.com, become a supporter today. Emily, I hope you're going to get some rest. I hope you're going to kind of have an opportunity for some downtime, and as you kind of get, you know, geared up for yet another week to come. So thanks for taking the time out today, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, you got it. All right, everybody, we are out of here for the day. Wish you all a great weekend. That temperature outside here in Bucks County just can't seem to break 50. And the rain keeps coming, but you know what? Our spirits are up. It's a good day, everybody. Have a good one. Keep up the fight. There we go.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. I've got this, like a whole promo show. It's the Bucks County Beacon promo show with some news thrown in there. It was great.
I'm like, thanks for doing my fundraising work for me, because now I can just cut all that, and then I have my spring fund drive.
Go for it. Do it all. Do it all. Do it all. I mean, you know, like I said to you this before, you know, that was the one thing that it took me the longest time to get past, is like, you know, like asking people for money and just building it in. But once you get past it on the other side, you know, you really, it's clear about how important it is. Just keep it going.
I was listening to NPR this morning, and my 4 hours wait in the driveway of that house, and they're in their spring fund drive, and I was like, damn it, I need to do our spring fund drive.
You NPR, just give me a driveway moment, not this nonsense. Yeah, indeed.